All right, welcome everyone to the first IP Day webinar Wednesday of 2017. Very excited to be here with you today. Um, I know you're used to hearing June Rawls' voice here at the beginning of our webinar Wednesdays, and she apologizes for her absence. And trust me, she would love to be here. She loves these events, and we'll be listening back to the playback tomorrow, I'm sure. But she is currently in Tallahassee, up there fighting on behalf of all of us as usual. Um, so although we're sad for her not to be here, it's exciting that she's off, still working on adult ed projects. Anyways, my name's Harold Gertner. I've met many of you probably, and we've had some trainings and webinars together in the past. Some of the things that we have talked about in the past, we're going to expand on a little bit today. This webinar is really focused on, as the title says, integrating new curriculum frameworks into existing classroom settings. And what we're really talking about is the workforce preparation and digital literacy portions of those curriculum frameworks. Small housekeeping measure here. Whoops, there we go. Won't advance. Small housekeeping measure. There is a question and answer tab at the top of your page. If you could use that to ask questions throughout the session, that would be the easiest mode of communication, the Q&A instead of the chat. And I will try to look at those questions as we go along, and if I've missed some, I'll catch them at the end, and try and answer as many questions as I can as we throughout the webinar today. And if there's something I can't answer, I'll certainly make note of it and do my best to get that information out to y'all after the webinar. All right, great. So let's jump right in. One of the things, like I said, we're talking about today is some of the workforce prep and digital literacy portions of the curriculum frameworks. Here I have listed, this is the new curriculum frameworks for 2016 and 17, AEB, GED, but it's also for ESOL and AEE frameworks as well. And so what we're really talking about here is if you've been involved in one of the Phi Kap's trainings I've been involved in before, we've touched on some of these similar ideas, but here's a breakdown. This is pulled directly from the frameworks. This is a breakdown of what we're talking about with workforce preparation activities. There's critical thinking, teamwork, employment, self-management, utilizing resources, using information, and understanding systems. And if you read here a little bit of the breakdowns of each of these, you can see that often when we kind of shorthand talk about workforce prep, we really are focusing on the employment category and the self-management category, maybe with some of the teamwork stuff thrown in. But a lot of times when we talk workforce prep, we're talking about responsibility, self-management, showing up in the proper dress for the job, showing up on time, always arriving regularly, like not being an absentee employee, behaving properly on the job site, knowing the difference between the way you can act and talk to people in the kind of relaxed environment of joking around your home versus in a certain professional environment. Also, obviously touching on the idea of respect for the people you work with and respect for yourself as an employee and all those types of things. And we obviously spend a good bit of time on talking about how to fill out an application, write a resume, do a cover letter, write a thank you letter after you've gone to an interview, practice different interviewing techniques. These are the things that come to the forefront of our mind when we think of workforce prep. And those are all very important, and we're going to touch on some ways to integrate these into your regular everyday classrooms. But some of the other things here listed here are very important as well. Critical thinking skills. This comes up time and again. Yes, some employers want someone that'll just show up on time and dress well and be polite and that they can rely on. But time and again, in every level of employment, people are looking for employees that can think on their feet, make decisions, evaluate the situation in front of them and choose the best alternative or uh, such for the corporation or whatever company they work for. This goes hand in hand with being able to work with people and have good teamwork skills. It really goes well with the idea of utilizing the resources you have. That can be, as it's listed here, time, money, materials, or human resources. Those are all the things that people worry about in the workplace, how to utilize those resources to the best of their abilities as efficiently as possible. Utilizing information. How do we acquire information? How do we organize information? How do we evaluate the information we're using? And how do we understand the systems that we're coming in contact with and in the way things work in the world around us, social interactions. Again, that can get at the difference between a classroom, a home, and a business environment, or mechanical systems, all these kinds of things. And this, when you read this, it sounds like a lot, a little overwhelming in some ways, but we're going to break it down into some more specifics. Now, also listed here, it's kind of a little hidden in this light blue, kind of light purplish kind of color, but is a link directly to this curriculum framework as it is in the adult ed. I don't know if that's the ABE. Whatever. It's the career adult ed frameworks. It's the exact same as you'll find in any of the ABE, GED, ESOL, or like I said, AAE frameworks. But I just wanted to have you a link directly to it. And you will, as always, have access to this webinar and information later, so you can follow up on that if you would so like. Okay. So moving right along. Whoops. There we go. So here's another way we've seen some of these things. You may have gotten on the Florida Department of Education and looked at some of the core requirements for, this is from the ABE language requirements. This is another way of stating what we were just looking at. It's the career development standards. And a lot of what we're talking about here, the adult career pathway system, is really what we've been talking about as Phi Kaps, and where the whole movement statewide is going for integrating career and technical education with adult education hand in hand. But these skills, are the same things we were looking at before, and just a little bit of different language. Develop skills to locate, evaluate, and interpret career information. Identify interests and skills and personal preference that influence career choice and educational choices. Identify career clusters, related pathways, and develop and manage a career and educational plan. Well, a lot of this, the education plan we develop, is going to be directly related to how we develop these workforce prep activities and the kind of students we prepare to make informed, capable sorts of decisions about the career and path they might want to go down. Now, like I said, this just a little reminder, the whole Phi Kaps grant issue is that Florida Integrated Career and Academic Preparation System is what Phi Kap stands for. This is where we're trying to put, like I said, more career and technical instructors teaching together with academic instructors in adult ed. And so some of these ideas and emphases of workforce prep that come out of some of this model are getting folded into our direct curriculum frameworks. And so we're going to see more and more of this in the future, I think. Now, today, that was kind of our quick intro to get through where we are and where we're going. We're going to focus a little more, like I said, on the workforce prep and the digital literacy standards. And I'm going to try and give you some, hopefully innovative sounding approaches to ways to expand what you're doing in your program. And like I say here, with minimal financial investment, because that's always key. We don't have a whole lot of money to throw around, so we want to use it well. Here's another quick reminder of what these things include and what we're going to look at as far as workforce prep. We're going to talk a little bit about critical thinking skills, digital literacy skills, and self-management skills. I think a lot of us know how to approach the basic academic skills, but I want to talk about how to roll some of these others into our current academic instruction. And then this will really tie in, the example we're going to use will tie in very well to the idea of understanding systems. Not that these other areas aren't important, but this you'll see how this can work all as one unit, I hope. So first off, the traditional kind of soft skill workforce prep. We don't need to ignore that. And sometimes I think we give a little bit of lip service to our soft skill preparation with a short workshop here or there, or a small credential in customer service or some such thing. But what we need is the regular practice of these types of soft skills to instill the habit of the soft skills that we're looking for into our students, not just a one-off afternoon seminar about appropriate dress in the workplace or something. But what we can do is establish things in our classes regularly that encourage these skills. I work at Santa Fe College in Gainesville, Florida, and we do not have grades for our adult students. Well, that's not quite right. We have grades for adult ed students, but they don't go into their GPA. They do go on their transcript. And so for a long time, we just gave everyone A's because we didn't want to negatively affect the way their transcript looked, even if it didn't factor into any future GPAs. But we decided in some ways that was doing a disservice to our students because at times, some students were doing great and putting in the effort to deserve A's, and they were achieving in their ABE or GED goals. But other students who may not have been were still getting a designation of receiving an A, and got the encouragement that they were doing very well. And not that we don't need to encourage our students, but we need to encourage them with appropriate, reasonable expectations and accomplishments and a sense of where they are. And so instead, we've established a grade system based on attendance, timeliness, appropriate participation, whether they complete an assignment, whether they participate in teamwork activities, do they, show that workplace behavior that we want in the classes when they come. And we just give them A's, B's, and C's based on those things. None of it is based on a grade they get. It's not, did they get an 90 on this test or an 80 on this homework assignment? It's more, did they complete it in an appropriate and timely fashion, similar to how it would be done in a workplace environment. And that encourages the continued maintenance of these soft skills day in and day out instead of just in a workshop. Now, some of the other things that can be good for little workshops that may not work well for your direct day-to-day class would be these other side of soft skills that we start talking about now, which is more of the self-management idea of stress relief, a healthy diet, conflict resolution, the importance of sleep and exercise, the importance of mental health. I've got meditation and breathing exercises here. I tie that a lot in with the stress relief. So an example of how you might roll this into a current academic structure, this fall we had a science course that was basically focused on biology. It was a reading heavy course and was actually on the registered as a reading course on the books, but the focus of the reading was science material geared towards getting students ready for the GED, but we also had ABE students in the class. The biology section of the science test is 40% of that science test, and so it's a large portion of knowledge that the students need to be familiar with. But we, as we're studying the body and the bodily systems during our human biology portion of the class, we talked about how to keep each of these systems healthy, and that immediately tied in a pretty regular discussion of the importance of things like stress management and relief and healthy diet and sleep and mental health to keep your liver functioning well and your stomach functioning well and your heart beating well and all those things, all these other self-management skills that are beyond the area of our regular soft skill kind of area are important as well. And you can kind of fold those in. And plus it feels kind of exciting and real world for the students. It connects them directly to their gallbladder after they read about a gallbladder in the book, and then they talk about what their gallbladder does and how to keep themselves healthy. So moving on from there, I just want to touch on this just a second because it kind of plays off that last idea of how to develop more things in a classroom. I've spoken about this before in a Phi Kap's presentation, so I'm just going to touch on it. But one thing that we can do that's not directly written out in the curriculum frameworks, but is a great way to kind of get ahead of the curve and be doing innovative things beyond what's absolutely required. It's very easy to incorporate some what I like to call resume enhancement credentials into some of your curriculum. This top one on the list here, the CPR first aid certification from the American Heart Association, was something that we folded into the fall health class, where we were talking about biology and then human biology and human systems and health for those systems. Then we talked about, well, what happens if things go wrong, and we worked on CPR and first aid. One of our instructors was already CPR certified and then went and took an extra course to get trainer certified. The total cost between her certification and trainer certification was like between $2 and $250. And so 250, obviously. I don't want people to think it's $2.50. But that proved to be a very small investment that gave students a real world applicable knowledge and credential that they can use in any situation. We also, it works very well in a reading class to pull that into how you to reading intensive work through the training manuals. We're looking to expand this and do this with other areas. Safe serve food or serve safe food handling has the same situation. We have an instructor who went and got certified as a instructor in that. We're also working with DCF childcare certifications through their online training, where we can do online training with students as a group and then have them work online alone. It pulls in digital literacy skills and it pulls in reading skills again. And then if you want to expand even further, this is a little specialty thing we got kind of lucky about because of some of our instructors' construction background. But there's other industry credentials you can look into that are entry level that are maybe a little more involved than the CPR type thing, but may be available to you and your students if you have an adult educator who's a second career educator, like many of our adult educators are. May have some other training that they can capitalize on from their past, and it's good to ask your teachers about that and see what you can do to continue to expand on what we're actually required to do. So moving on, the digital literacy. Here's the kind of main points of the digital literacy. Again, here's a link to one of the curriculum frameworks, the GED Reasoning and Language Arts curriculum framework. But this is the same across all those frameworks again. So any of them you look up, this will be in there. Obviously, develop basic keyboarding and numerical keypad skills. Great, easy thing to do by having folks do free online typing programs and courses like that. But there's other ways you can encourage them to use their keyboarding skills more regularly in your classes to reinforce any training they may be doing like that. This next one, produce a variety of documents such as research papers, resumes, charts, and tables using word processing programs. That can sound a little scary to folks. That sounds like a lot to accomplish with some of our adult ed students who may not have the most computer savvy background. But you don't have to accomplish all these things on day one. We can start easy and kind of simply with some of the ways to use these programs to help students analyze what they're reading and working through. And in a few minutes, we're going to look at how to use Word to do that, to help read a document and analyze it. Obviously, we can search for materials online and inform our students how to search for materials and collect data and information, how to properly cite that information, and then where the appropriate or safe places to take information from, things to believe, what are valid resources, rather, is what I'm getting at. And then also we'll talk, you need to help your students work towards practicing safe and responsible email, file sharing, all those types of things. And we'll touch on that right now. Oh, almost. technology standards. So again, this is reiterated other places, but this is a lot of the same kind of stuff. Just another way of piecing out some of that language from our technology standards. There's a link here to the ABE framework. Now, digital literacy. So when we're talking about digital literacy, what are we talking about? We are talking about email. This is the kind of my simple way of breaking down some of the things we're going to start with today. Email, proper and appropriate use. We're going to talk about reliable internet sources, and we're going to talk about what I call reading with Word, and then a little bit about some web resources you might want to use regularly with your class, and we'll touch on some critical thinking issues. So first off, with email, I would encourage you to require your students to email assignments directly to you regularly. Teach students to use email so that it's not, some of our students, like I say, aren't the most computer savvy, and email may seem scary. They may text all day long or Snapchat or whatever, but they still need to learn traditional email for their academic career and business career, and wherever they go beyond us, we want them to have these skills. And so we're talking about email security. Who do you send what to? What's fair to open? How do you know if something's a spam and not to open it? Some of those kinds of things, which really comes down to a lot of critical thinking skills. I would go ahead and tell our students what CC and BCC are. Many of them don't know. And the history of that, what CC actually means, that it's a carbon copy and how that worked. Some of them find it very interesting. I would teach students how to use attachments. And later when we talk about reading in Word and maybe typing some responses in Word, I would encourage you to have your students attach their answer to something they're working on to you and send it to you. They need to get in the right habit of naming what the document is they're working on, naming the title to their email so it's digestible by the receiver and they know what they're receiving. Appropriate kind of business writing so that they have a clear email as to what they need or what they've sent. Those kinds of things, and that really comes down to the traditional composing a letter. Just because we're typing it doesn't mean it's any different than the way many of us learn to write business letters and thank you letters and personal letters and all those kinds of things. Back in the day, you can pull out your mom's etiquette book and let's teach them how to write an appropriate letter again. And we'll type while we're doing it. Now, the other thing we're worried about is not just writing and sharing things on the internet, but reading on the internet. And a major problem with internet sources is the reliability of sources. And with the overwhelming amount of information available today, it's hard to tell what information is valid or not valid, or true or false, or anything. Especially with the level of critical thinking skills of some of our students and the proliferation of like satirical news sites, it can be very interesting to have some discussions about what's appropriate and what's not in terms of reliability online. But here's some things I encourage my students, and I would encourage you to tell your students to think about as well. Read about the author. It's very obvious, and many of us have told our students this before. We do it in the books, the GED books. Who's the author? What's their bias? What's their goal in writing this article? What's the audience they're trying to gear their article towards? Just because we're doing it online, it's no different. It may just be more exciting and engaging for some of our students, but you can still use some of your traditional GED materials to supplement these lessons. So again, same thing about the author. Read about the publication. Search the publication name. Don't just read the about the publication on their page where they have their little description of who they are and what they do. Search it and see what other people say they are and what they do. And look at a variety of sources to help you determine if it's a reputable organization or not. Like I said, they're Google the author and the organization. Pay attention to the domain type. That can tell you a lot about the type of organization it is. .com versus .org versus .edu or .gov or .mil. Can tell you a lot about the source and the nature of that source, maybe the bias of that source, maybe the reliability of that source. A lot of things you can learn just by the domain name. We already touched on this, but again, focusing on author, and page biases is key, and that goes hand in hand with talking about what's a fact versus an opinion. Often in the internet article world, we see things that are written and stated as fact without any substance or citation or resource to back it up any further. And that's a great way for our students to see to see how an opinion can be challenging, to figure out whether it's truly a fact that you can count on, or an opinion that you need to think a little more about whether you agree with them or not, and look at some of the other data that led them to that conclusion. Also, this kind of goes hand in hand with what we were saying earlier about an email and stuff, just properly citing where you're taking things. If you're concerned about the places, the articles you're reading and the authors you're reading, and so you're looking to see what citations they've used, the students, they need to be looking to see, give those citations themselves so that they know their opinions and facts can be properly analyzed by others later. All right. Sorry, I was just reading a quick question here. I do not know about Compass 100. I'm sorry. I got a correction here about our correctional facilities in the process of setting up a similar workforce prep program within our GED curriculum, which is called Compass 100. Do you think it will be following the same guidelines as this program? I'm really not sure, but anything along these lines is great. That if you're doing anything with workforce prep and GED curriculum hand in hand, I think you're in the right. You're going down the right road. So thanks for the question, Alan. But I wish I had a better answer about Compass specifically. But that sounds great. Okay, so what's this idea that I was saying about teaching in Word? What I'm talking about here is using Word, Microsoft Word, the program, to assist with how our students analyze what they're reading. And it's a way to teach them digital literacy skills and get them handy with using the computer. They're working on typing skills and manipulating Word, and they're also learning to pull out main ideas and details and all those types of things. So a lot of it is really a matter of teaching them how to manipulate some of the tools of the computer, and then how to do some traditional highlighting, but with your Word highlighters. And so you can make whatever sort of scheme you want, and either as a class and try and encourage all your students to follow it, so you can know what you're all looking at together, or individual students can have their own pattern. But it's nice to have different colors that relate to different issues. As you see in one of the little pictures here, this is a very traditional highlighter setup if you had a book in front of you, but we're going to use the same idea for Word, but they've got yellow and green for secondary ideas. Main ideas are in blue, significant numbers in orange, all kinds of things. They have some deal where they're looking for proper nouns here, I guess. I'm not sure exactly what the project is they're prepped for, but they want to highlight all those. So they've got some color breakdown, and then when they read back later, they'll pop out. Something I've suggested here is just yellow for the main idea, mainly because that's the color that Word defaults to. Blue for important details, just because it's right next to the yellow one, and then green for maybe things you don't know, or important sections that were kind of awkward that maybe the student didn't understand as they read through it the first time. And anyway, let's go to this. Let's try this out. So I want to show an example of what I'm talking about here, and this will also help us get into the idea of understanding systems. Some of y'all have heard me talk about this before at a few other things at the end of last fall, and so I thought I'd use the same article and kind of tease it out a little more in case some of those same people were participating today. But earlier this fall, with us doing the biology and health and all those kinds of things in our science reading class, I grabbed an article from The Guardian that I stumbled upon that actually talks about a public health crisis in the state of Florida. And so let me open the article here. Okay, and so this is an article from The Guardian from, as we see here, last May, so relatively recent. And granted, we were looking at this in starting in like September, so even more recent at that point. Our student, we talked about first of all, why did we pick this article? Why was I sharing it? What sort of an organization The Guardian is? It's a journalistic, a paper that's won many awards for journalistic integrity and all kinds of things of that nature. And it's their articles are well documented and cited and backed up with excellent resources. And so it's a good example to talk about a valid place online to go. This article deals with, like I said, a major public health crisis in America, but specifically looks at the state of Florida. So really, we're talking about understanding the systems of public health and how certain problems lead to other problems, and certain solutions lead to unintended consequences and problems, and that sort of thing. So the first thing we did is we all came to this webpage, and then I had them make sure they all know how to use their scroll bar and had them roll back and forth a bit, and then I had them roll all the way to the bottom, because I find that when students grab and select from the top of an article, they just keep rolling and get all the ads at the end. So we're going to avoid all this stuff as best we can, even though we'll get some ads with our stuff. But I'll get them on it where they can see their cursor, teach them to right click and go all the way up. Now, I know this may seem, for some of your classes that are more advanced, this may seem a little basic, but I think it's sometimes very good to start with the basics and see if anybody missed something along the way that might help them out anyway. So now that it's highlighted, we're going to right click and copy, and we're going to open a blank Word document, at which point we're going to right click again and paste. There's text only, there's merge the formatting, or there's keep the formatting. I like to tell the students, at least at first, when they're getting used to this, to keep the formatting, because you can use some of the headers that they have already formatted to organize and break down your article. And I'll show you what I mean by that right away. So we'll scroll all the way back to the top. Here's our title, right? We'll copy that. I'm going to open a new file. This is kind of a next little step, but let's paste it. Now let's go through and find header number 1. Come on down. Yeah. Okay. So these are them in the dark black and the darker bold here. So nothing had ever brought me to my knees in this way. Whoop. We'll pop that in here. Well, we'll keep it so it looks big. And we'll go back. Whoops. Navigating here. We'll go on down. Oxycodone down. Heroin up. Whoops. There we go. Let's paste it in here. Again, let's go back. We'll scroll down, another bold heading. Copy. Go back over. We're almost there. Summary's coming up. Nope, that was it. Okay. So what we've just done is, before we even read the article, we've sort of given our students a roadmap for where the article is going to go in an outline form. Well, here's the deal. How's cracking down on America's painkiller capital led to a heroin crisis, right? I guess, and actually we probably could have grabbed our subtitle, because then we really get it all the way. what Florida's doing, our subtitle tells us, although some people think it was the right thing, and it's one of these maybe unintended consequences of people trying to do something good, but critics say the efforts to contain the epidemic have actually made it worse, and now we've got two crises going on, right? Then we have a section that's nothing had ever brought me to my knees. Students are going to jump on the point right away that this is, how bad the addiction was, how strong it was, how it surprised people, how, and as we get into it more, it'll be how people got on pills because of a injury usually, and then were taken over by them. Then we see the next section down. Oh, the pills are going down for whatever reason. We're going to read more about it to find out. And the heroin use is going up. That's not good because at the end they say there's still new problems every single day, and we haven't solved this. So now we've got a little bit of idea we're going, and for some of our students, having a little bit of a roadmap can help them. So we've used that to create that. Now the other thing we can do is go through and highlight. We've lost all our pictures in our transfer, and so we can delete those and get it down to just, oh, we got some. Oh, because they want us to buy something, of course. The ads make it through, but we can delete them down and clean it up and show them how to highlight and delete and kind of clean up some of our spaces that way and look more like an article. It's not absolutely necessary, but it helps to clean it up, and it shows the students how to do a little bit more with get a little more savvy with doing some highlighting, deleting over and over. Now, the other thing you can do is right here's a nice teachable moment. Teach them what the underlined blue means. So these are something that have a grammar problem. And so let's see, they want us to have a comma there. And if I right click, they'll tell me it needs to be the amount of heroin uses, but we know that's not actually right. So we're saying we're smarter than the computer because it's the amount of heroin use I'm seeing is getting worse. But if we had something misspelled, maybe, oh, here we go, realize. So we can do the same thing with a spell check issue. It's underlined in red, go over on it, right click, and our students are like, oh, wow, I don't have to remember how to spell every single word anymore. So excellent. Now, again, something fun to teach them is cultural difference. Like we said, this comes from England, and so realize is incorrect for us, but with an S is correct for them. So kind of another little interesting moment there. Then let's start reading the article. Tell them to start at the top. They know they read this already, the kind of subtitle title. They know kind of where the article's going. Let's read through it. Okay, it's kind of a personal story about this 24-year-old coming to rehab. He got hooked on pills, and when the government cracked down on his pills, he turned to heroin to fill the void. That sounds like a pretty main idea about where things might be going. If not the exact way of stating it, it feels like based on our little outline, this is kind of a summary of what's coming. There was some sort of government crackdown on some supply of something, and he turns to heroin instead. And so we can come down a little bit more. They're expensive. They're hard to get. The heroin is cheap. That sounds like a detail for why this might happen. And we can quickly go over and choose whatever the detailed choice was, blue. Come down a little further. Here's something that's really getting more at it. It was Florida's the center of this. Now, we may not want to highlight this, but it's something important to know about, right? We could still be coming down, depending on the students we have. They may choose to highlight notorious and say, I'm not sure exactly what notorious means. I've heard of notorious people and notorious musicians and such. I'm not sure what it means, though, or I'm not sure what facilitated means. Well, now I do my whole article, and then I want to go back. I can just highlight in quickly on these things that are in different colors. Student goes, oh, I don't know what notorious means. And we say, hey, go over there, right click on it, and you might get a synonym. Does that help? And if not, we can copy it and pop it into an online dictionary and go ahead and teach them the idea of also right away using a little bit of effort to answer their question themselves and using these tools a little bit to help them get them themselves instead of always asking for the instructors to feed them those answers. And again, this is better than telling them to go get a dictionary because it feels more current and relevant and real world. They're not just flipping through a dictionary alphabetical, page after page. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Another beauty is, what if I came in here and I had a student that said, I'm coming around. I'm like, okay, Johnny, scroll back up. Let's see how you're doing. And the whole first page is like this. Well, instead of having a whole piece of paper that they have highlighted that we can't unhighlight, I can say, well, I understand why you think this is all important. It's the first introductory section, which is setting the stage for the whole article. But let's get rid of all this and read it again together and highlight just the most important parts. And so you can undo and redo and help students learn where they made their mistakes very quickly with this type of approach. Now, I know subject-wise, this subject might be kind of difficult or more complex than some people may want to tackle in an adult ed class. But what was very exciting for our class was to see that here's someone from halfway around the world writing about a very serious epidemic going on in Florida. One that's so serious, there's a very good chance somebody in our class has had some relationship to it, if not at the heroin level, probably at the painkiller addiction level. Not that they themselves may have been, but maybe somebody they're close to has had some issues like this. And then we can follow the epidemic as we read the article. We get a little understanding of systems going on. There was a little bit of research beforehand. We can learn why OxyContin was prescribed heavily when it came on the market as a alternative to morphine and as part of a kind of push by insurance companies and prescription pharmaceutical companies to tell hospitals and doctors that patients should never be in pain. And then that push this is a very 2-second quick summary, but that push coincides with OxyContin, which was supposedly less addictive and less dangerous than traditional pain mediation methods like morphine and stuff, explodes in Florida. There's some loopholes in the law that allow these pill mill things to form. So we get lots of people that aren't even reputable doctors flooding the market with prescription painkillers. People in the state legislature try to close that loophole and get rid of this. But now we've got a bunch of people in the state that are addicted to these things, not just our own citizens, but people from out the state that have come here. And they have to learn, they turn to something to support that addiction. When the pills get too expensive because they're no longer available at the pill mills, then they turn to heroin. And then now, with some of my students that are still following this after the class is over, they've been coming to me sharing how they've seen articles about hepatitis C infection rates rising in places where heroin rates are rising. And so another tick to the wheel of a major public health crisis and understanding that system. Now, every step along that way, the students have lots of interesting ideas and arguments about why did that happen or why can't we fix it this way? And that's what we're getting at with how to change systems. And they talk in the understanding systems section about understanding a system and then suggesting ways to possibly improve a system. And those can be some pretty lively discussions. Let me see here. A couple other questions. Let me just read very quickly. Okay, someone asking about word as digital literacy, using reading for that. Can they be included using Newsela? And I'm actually going to touch on Newsela in a second. I think it's a great resource. You could certainly copy those and pull them into here and use that as your main article. And it immediately gives you a way to level the article for different students. On Newsela, they give you a variety of different reading levels and questions that match those reading levels, and we'll look at that in just 1 second. And those are also the great thing about that site. They're also very current articles, similar to the example I'm using here. So actually, let's. I think that was a good quick overview. Let's kind of jump back to the presentation now and talk about some other options along this line. So perfect segue from our question there. Thank you. Newsella. And I also encourage I want to touch a quick moment on Canvas. Not everyone has a system like this that their students can get involved in. I do work at Santa Fe College, and we have the benefit of having some of the college's resources that our adult ed students can use. And one of those is the Canvas program for, as it says, it's a learning management system. It's nice to get students comfortable with that. In addition to communicating through email, they can communicate with each other, and to professors through Canvas. They can, I can share readings with students. They can follow the links from there, or video links or whatever. And it's a good thing to get them comfortable with, so that they can see a lot of schools and corporations use similar sorts of programs. And if you start learning how to use one, the others are pretty self-explanatory once you kind of have the pattern down. So if you have that option, it's nice to get them working on it. More to the point of reading directly, and issues of reading and kind of bouncing off what we were just talking about online, is using Newsella. Like I say here, they've got current events, variety of topic areas, 5 different reading levels for each article. The quizzes and the writing prompts are specific to the reading level. So let me just pull this up for 1 second and give you an example here. So it comes up, here's the main page. You will have to register. I'm not sure what they do with the registration other than track who's using their services, because I've never received an email from them like as selling something or unprovoked or look at our article. Or so encourage your students. You will not get anything sent to you regularly, but you have to register to make this something you can use. But here you go, some main articles, things that are current issues. Is Amazon listening to our conversations? Talking about the election dividing America. Here's some stuff about aquaculture and overfishing issues and feeding the planet. Here's some other things of latest news you can kind of look through briefly there. But each of these sections, if you'll notice, it says kids, health, science. There's a variety of sections. And here at the top, you can go into either latest opinion pieces or any one of these sections and examine current articles in those sections. There's also a Spanish link if you want to use this with your ESOL students, which I highly recommend as well. But let's go, I was talking about science, so let's go to a fun science article. Blast off, NASA plans 2 unmanned missions to study early solar system. All right, excellent. So right now you can see over to the side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different levels of reading. There's a writing prompt and a quiz for each, and a Spanish option. So let me just show you real quick so you can see very easily. Oh, they may make me sign in. Oh, they are. I don't want to take the moment to sign in because we're almost finished for the day. But if you sign in and sign up, you can see pretty quickly how the level of the article changes while the content stays the same. So even if you have a kind of mixed classroom that's not very leveled towards skill levels, you can have everyone work with the same information and then be able to discuss it a little bit as a group, even though they read it at different ability levels. Same with having them do the quiz and the writing prompt at different ability levels. It's a great resource. Let's see another question here in case it's oh, here's another link to share about some ESOL stuff. Someone is sharing. Mirtha Martinez says you can go to learningenglish.voanews.com. And I would imagine if she's sharing it now, it's a very similar thing to Newsella for ESOL students. But I'll be excited about checking that out later. Thanks for the recommendation. All right, let me hop back to our PowerPoint here because I know we're coming down to the end of our time together. But I want to touch on some issues of critical thinking real quick before we go. Critical thinking is something we can pull into every single one of these other teaching areas and every other point of workforce prep as we go and every other point of academic prep as we go. It goes hand in hand with it, but it just needs to become a regular habit. And it basically comes down to constantly questioning what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the information we're working with. And so there's a kind of a long explanation here of some of those, another way of describing some of those things, like what critical thinking means. I would encourage, as it says here, figuring out complex problems, solutions to complex problems. I would encourage you to talk about complex problems with your students, like the Guardian article about the heroin epidemic in Florida, like some things you might find here at procon.org, another great online resource for the kinds of things we're trying to teach our students. I want to pull it up real quick as well. If you haven't been to procon.org, it gives you very balanced discussions of a variety of major issues. Earlier in the election, they had the candidates here. Now that it's the cabinet picks, they have a discussion of the pros and cons of each of those officials, if you want to get into the political realm. Again, I know some people will shy away from that, which is fine. But here's a variety, a quick overview of all the other things they offer. And let's just pick something very neutral and non-controversial, I guess, or cell phone safe. Maybe we should all worry, but it may not be controversial. If we pull it up and we scroll down, immediately we can see pro and con arguments side by side. Number one and number one always match up. So it's the pro argument of this perspective and the counter to that perspective, and they go side by side, so you don't have to read a huge amount to pull out a variety of opinions and arguments from different issues. They're very nice side by side. It makes for good analysis and discussion about how to about critical thinking and about how students ought to be approaching some of these issues. Another thing I encourage, or another way of thinking about critical thinking, is this idea of RRA, or reflection, reasons, and alternatives. So what do I mean by that? This is part of what we need to do in our class all the time, is urge students to be reflective. You know, stop and think instead of making snap judgments. Don't just accept the first idea that comes into their head. Try and explain why they had that opinion. Don't just automatically accept whatever the media that they're regularly involved with has informed them to think. Have them reflect and try and come up with why they think that, or how they got to that reason. A lot of this gets into the idea of looking at authors and web pages, biases and agendas and all those kinds of things, and issues of facts versus opinions. Very exciting, you know, in there. Reasons, like I said, like, how do you know this? Why do you know this? What are your reasons for your opinion? Is that a good source of information that you're pulling your reasons from? Try and have students validate why they think what they think, or why they maybe disagree with someone else's view. It can't just be, I don't like that person. It's, I don't like that person's opinion on this issue because of the following reasons. And try and encourage them to constantly be thinking that way. Again, critical thinking, it's key to think of alternatives. So encourage students that just because there's a path in front of them, and that seems to be the quote unquote obvious path, or the standard path, or the mainstream path, it may not always be the only option. And you know, a lot of this goes hand in hand with kind of a scientific thinking approach to the world of questioning the things in front of you, and then testing your assumptions or your thoughts or your conclusions about things, and trying to explain them better. It's also great for this to get students to look at another point of view, even not to try and tell them to disagree with their original viewpoint. Their own opinion is certainly valid, but to maybe strengthen the reason they think what they think by seeing the arguments of the other side. They can, you know, it's always good to kind of work across topics like that, I guess. Let me see here if we have another question. It looks like something popped up here. Oh, right. Well, I agree with that there for sure. ESOL students, Mirtha Martinez pointed out that ESOL students are encouraged to use English only, so a Spanish translation is not an option we encourage. And I absolutely understand that and agree with that completely. I find it interesting that it's there. Sometimes I could see a student at home maybe reading on the lowest level in English and then reading it again on the Spanish to see how close they got to their topics. But I completely understand as an ESOL person. It's kind of like when I went into Spanish 101 in college. The professor never spoke English for the whole semester. So that is definitely the way to go. And we will have someone else is asking about the websites for ESOL and some of the other options here. The ESOL website was learningenglish.voanews.com. And there will be a full transcript of this webinar. And yes, they do count for certification points and all that good stuff. Log into your IPDAY place to find out about it. Let me see. I don't think we have anything else on this issue directly. Do we? So I'd just like to conclude by reminding you that this is something you have to do. You have to expand beyond the traditional academics and just kind of ABE, GED prep as we've always thought about it, in order to help our students more successfully navigate things beyond just the classroom or beyond just the GED test or the TABE test for that matter. And the more we can do to help our students grow beyond just academic skills or grow skills beyond just academic areas, the better service we're doing to those students in the long run. And keys to this effort, essential to this effort, as I say here, digital literacy, workforce prep, and that's not just those traditional, interview skills or resume prep or appropriate language, soft skills, but expanding that to some of those other areas we talked about. Critical thinking, always pushing on that, something that all employers at all levels, from the most entry level to the highest presidents and CEOs, want people in every position that can think critically about the area they're working in and how to make things work more efficiently and increase production and meet their goals in a more timely fashion. So like I said, it's an exciting time to be in adult ed, and I hope you will embrace that. Yeah, I always like to close with a little this classic Albert Einstein quote that education is not the learning of facts. I mean, that is an important part about what we do in our academic classes, but that's not everything we do. We want to train them to think. And with the digital literacy and some of the workforce prep skills in terms of self-management that allows them to have the freedom to think critically because they're not overwhelmed with things, and then teaching those critical thinking skills, we can really accomplish that. Let's see, one more question popped up. Okay, so it says, sometimes math GED instructors do not feel the need to incorporate any of these into their classroom. We found that by having students use YouTube to look up how to solve math problems, the instructor uses digital literacy, and so the students, and so are the students without realizing it. As far as workforce, please recommend mycareershines.org. Yes, everybody, I think, if you're paying attention to what you're supposed to be doing, you should be having all your students register with mycareershines.org and go through the career evaluations that kind of see where they may be wanting to go. And that's wonderful. But if you don't do anything with that information, it's useless. And that information is also a little bit more specific than some of the general workforce prep things we were talking about today. I think that math instructors can use a lot of these things in their classroom in terms of certainly the soft skills of workforce prep. That's just a structure of the classroom. I realize the digital literacy, not so much, but I have a couple good examples of how to use that, and I'm drawing a blank while I'm on the spot here. Maybe we'll get back to you with an example sometime in the future. But there's definitely ways to use for math and English instructors to work more hand in hand and have those classes not be so pigeonholed, and then you'll naturally pull in some of these things, I think. Maybe that sounds a little vague, but anyway, good thought, good comments. Thank you again. And I appreciate everyone joining us today. And oh, wait, maybe someone added something to the chat. Let me check the chat. Excellent. Okay. Thank you to you all too. I got a few nice thank yous. Things are going well from the chat. Oh, one more question. Sorry, y'all. Okay, here's another ESOL site that's pretty long for me to share with you, but we'll share it with you in the future. I'm sure we can get this up there. For a digital literacy problem, it said something about have students write the worked out problems in mail and email it to you. That's good anytime you can get them to use that sort of thing. Any email interaction like that, the more the merrier. That's excellent. Um, but otherwise, I don't think I have any more completely ignored or unanswered questions. I don't want to leave you all hanging. But thanks again for tuning in, and this will be available pretty soon for you to get from your IPDAY website. So remember to stay focused on what IPDAY's got to offer for you. We'll always have um, something new, and I think we have another webinar coming up. If not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, I'm sure. So y'all have a nice Wednesday afternoon. Thanks again. Bye.